come to order. I want to welcome our witnesses and thank the chair, Maria Cantwell, and ranking member Roger Wicker, who is with us, and especially my partner in this effort, Senator Blackburn, whose leadership has been very important throughout our subcommittee process. Today, no less than in our past meetings, she's played an important role. And I want to thank our witnesses for being here as well. Nothing could be more important right now than protecting consumers against the spreading scourge of price gouging and scamming on the internet and elsewhere relating to COVID prevention and treatment products. Connecticut alone has received more than 800 complaints, including one from a constituent of mine in Shelton, Connecticut, Julius Hull, whose son tried to get a test. He needed a test because he was potentially a danger to his older parents. He and his son went to a walk-in test facility, waited in line for 45 minutes before they were told no more tests. They went to another facility, waited for 50 minutes. No more tests. And they were told the only tests left were rapid tests available to purchase for $60. As Mr. Hull put it to me, quote, "We're being told to wear masks, get vaccinated, keep social distances, and get tested if you have any symptoms. We've done this and get hit with a $60 bill. I don't know who put the price of these tests at $60 each, but I believe we're being taken advantage of." Yes, Mr. Hull, you are being taken advantage of. You're being exploited. And what's happening to you is unconscionable. And I would say the same thing to every one of those 800 people who have complained about similar practices. $60 per test is ridiculous. Taking advantage of people by raising the cost of these life-saving products is not only immoral, in most states, it is a crime. State attorneys general are stepping up, bringing cases where they can, but it's a national challenge. And I will be very blunt. There is a glaring lack of enforcement at the federal level. The federal government, including Federal Trade Commission and the Department of Justice, have few legal tools to hold price gougers accountable. That is a glaring gap in the law that needs to be corrected. I am deeply frustrated and disappointed that federal enforcers have failed to do more, and a large part of the problem is almost certainly lack of sufficient authority. And that's why I will be proposing a measure that will fill that gap, that will enable federal enforcers to do more and protect consumers in Connecticut from these price gougers and scammers. We need to impose steep financial penalties and absolutely bring criminal charges. I've said this in a variety of other contexts. The one thing that these companies understand is prison time and criminal charges. Profiteering during a pandemic is reprehensible. It costs lives. It must end. Last year, the subcommittee held a hearing on scams and fraud exploiting the pandemic. We heard then that the pandemic has created a bonanza for swindlers and con artists. The theft continues. The FTC has received nearly 700,000 reports of fraud since the start of the pandemic, approaching $700 million lost. At each new phase of the pandemic, consumers have been inundated with more sophisticated scams. Online marketplaces are still rife with fake face masks. Sophisticated counterfeits are still infiltrating our supply chain, putting unsuspecting consumers and healthcare workers at risk. And social media platforms are still a mega mall for snake oil salesmen hawking fake cures and prevention measures. It's not small change theft. People are going unvaccinated because of the commercial misinformation from these snake oil salesmen and then contracting COVID-19 and dying. So we've seen a new trend, an entirely new paradigm of fake or deceptive testing schemes during this recent surge. Bogus testing centers have promised quick results and left consumers waiting for days. In some cases, the results are not even real. Again, these scams cost lives. The purpose of this hearing is to sound alarm, raise a red flag, create awareness about the surge of scams, but it's also to ensure that those who steal from consumers and put them at risk are brought to justice. Our consumer protection laws are dead letter if they are unenforced. And the Federal Trade Commission has to do more, has to do better, has to be more vigorous and assertive. It's failed to create deterrence through hefty fine and strict court orders, and it must do more. In December of 2020, Congress gave the FTC new legal tools to help bring stiff financial penalties against fraud. I want to recognize Chair Cantwell's substantial leadership on that law, which I was pleased to help lead. We urged the Commission to fight harder. We gave it more funding. Last year, the acting director of the Bureau of Consumer Protection told us that it had, quote, cases in the pipeline, end quote. And yet the FTC has brought 2 cases in the last 10 months since that hearing, 3 in total under the new law. However, the FTC continues to issue warning letters that are nothing more than a notice and not even a slap on the wrist. They don't rise to that level. Again, this fraud, this undermining of our pandemic response is happening because there are nearly no consequences. The burden is falling on consumers. These bogus testing centers, counterfeit face masks, and deceptive marketing schemes are crimes. I expect more enforcement, and so does the American people. I expect the FTC to refer cases to the Department of Justice and collaborate with states for criminal prosecution. For these criminals, only prison time will act as a deterrent. I look forward to hearing from the witnesses about what else can be done and should be done to protect consumers, and I look forward to collaborating with colleagues on both sides of the aisle to stop price gouging, hold online marketplace scammers accountable, and ensure that our laws are enforced. Thank you again to the ranking member, and I turn to her.